Hey everybody, welcome back to the 3-2 pitch. It has been a long time. This guy to my left here, or my right, has been MIA. He's been in Missouri doing God knows what. But anyways, we're here and it's mid-season. It's about the All-Star break. We've got a great show planned for you guys today. My name's Drew, if you don't remember, and I'm going to introduce you to the one and only Nick. How you doing, Nick?
Pretty good. I'm out here in Missouri, as you said. I've spent more months in other people's houses than I have my own the last, 4 or 5 months. But don't worry, I'll only be gone for about another month, and I'll return back home. And you best believe be lots of videos, especially with the trade deadline coming up.
So subscribe to the 3-2 pitch, however he does it, up above or whatever it means. Anyways,
down below.
We've got a great show planned for you guys today. We've got some wonderful, we've got to go through the whole season. I mean, this has been a great first half. So we're going to give you a little bit of what has happened. We're going to go over the surprises from each division. We're going to go over the disappointments from each division. We're going to look ahead to the second half, and we're going to head into the All-Star break with some momentum. And guess what? I'm going to the All-Star break. I'm going to Denver on a flight on Sunday, and I will be at the Futures game, the Home Run Derby, and the All-Star game, rooting on my boys, the Giants, wearing a bright orange shirt. So if you see me, I'll have my shirt. I'll have my little daughter with me. It's going to be awesome, okay? So anyways, we're going to get to it. It has been a great first half of the year. It was so awesome to have baseball back, and it has just been a pleasure. Nick, give me, first of all, your kind of overall sense of the first half of the year. What stood out to you, just in general?
So I think the obvious thing is that pitchers are dominating. MLB has absolutely butchered the foreign substances on the baseballs, but I think the era of the pitcher, I think that is by far the most surprising thing. We've already played way more games this year to the All-Star break than we did the entirety of last year. So lots of things to talk about today, but I think the pitcher is definitely one of the highlight things that have been going on. 6 or 7 no-hitters already this year. I think we're a couple away from eclipsing the most of an entire season. We're halfway done. And, MLB banning foreign substances on pitchers, Glasnow gets injured, and you have people like Garrett Cole getting paid 30-something million. And since the crackdown, his ERA has been above 4. So, I mean, these are big things affecting big-time pitchers. And before I send it off to see what Drew wants to say, I do want to shout out myself I think I made a video talking about the Astros cheating. I did say there was something going on with the Astros pitching staff, because you had guys like Garrett Cole, Justin Verlander, all these pitchers come in to Houston, revamp their career. Now with the foreign substances, Garrett Cole, we haven't seen Justin Verlander because of Tommy John. Garrett Cole, biggest example of that. Came from Pittsburgh, struggling, did great in Houston. Substances banned, boom. I think we can call it a theory now. No longer a hypothesis. Yeah. I think it's a proven theory.
I think that's a great point, is that, sometimes, we get caught up in these scandals and we think that, we know everything. Well, we don't always know the entire story, and there's always two sides to every story. The thing that stands out to me is it's going to be a really exciting trade deadline coming up. I am looking at some of these teams, and we're going to be talking about some of these teams. Take a team like the Yankees, for example. They are in deep trouble. Not only with that payroll, and I saw a trade today, a trade proposal. Got me all excited. I was jumping around. Yaz and some other players.
Oh boy,
the Yankees for Aaron Judge, and I just started thinking about Aaron Judge in a San Francisco Giants uniform, and it got me excited. I mean, I started seeing World Series parades in my brain, because that could be honestly the thing that takes them over the edge. And I look at a lot of teams right now. There are a lot of teams that are kind of in that area. Look at the Cubs. Jed Hoyer came out today and said, you know what? This we may have to break this thing up. This is not going to work. The Cubs, they go on a massive losing streak. The Brewers go on a huge winning streak at the same time. And look what happens. Now the Brewers are just dominating that division. The Cardinals are kind of hanging around, and the Cubs, they don't know which way is up right now. So this is a really interesting time for teams. the All-Star break has always been an interesting time, but this year, especially when you start looking at the trade market, and that's what I'm excited about as we move to the second half of the year. And also just having fans back. Having the fans back has been great. I've been fortunate enough to go to a number of games. You know, I beg my wife so I can get out of the house and go to the games. And it's great to be at the ballpark again. It really is. You know, people, they don't really care about COVID anymore. You know, say what you want about it. It's just not really a thing anymore. You know, people are enjoying themselves. They're drinking beers. They're eating hot dogs. They're high-fiving. I mean, you're seeing it now with the NBA Finals in Phoenix. I mean, they're just going nuts there. That literally, you know, no social distancing, nothing. It's all over. And I think that really bodes well for Major League Baseball as we head down the stretch into the postseason. And the fact that we have some teams, which we'll talk about, but a few surprise teams that I'm really excited about seeing. I got one here in my backyard, and we'll see how it goes in the second half. But really looking at, wow, this is going to be an exciting postseason filled with fans, filled with people. So I'm excited about that. All right. Well, we're going to get to it. We're going to start with each division. What we're going to do today to make this go a little faster for you guys, we're going to go through each division. We'll talk about our surprises. We'll talk about our disappointments, and we'll go into our kind of preview for the second half of what we expect from certain teams, certain players. And then, you know, we'll go from there and kind of be done. So we want to give you guys, we don't want to take up too much of your time, but we want you to comment below. We want you to be a part of this. And, you know, as we move forward and we gear back up again. So I'm going to go ahead and let the young guy go first with his favorite division, the NL East.
Awesome. I'm so glad I got this division. And, you know, I'm rocking the Mets hat, and you might think, oh, the Mets are a surprise team. So for my surprise team, I'm not really going with the Mets. My surprise team is actually going to be the Phillies. The Phillies are sitting one game below 500, and when you look at their roster, it's just not amazing. They have Zach Wheeler, who is Brody Van Wagenen. Just, I thank you so much for just giving him to the Phillies, right? Not even putting forth effort to sign him. But Zach Wheeler's been amazing this year. Nola, that's really their only two pitchers. You got Harper, Hoskins, Realmuto on the offensive side. I mean, they have five guys, you know, making up their team. High payroll. The Phillies are one game under 500. They've been pretty fortunate. The entire division has been, you know, lackluster. You know, this was hyped up a couple years ago to be probably the best division in baseball. Look at it now. It's probably one of the worst divisions in baseball, and that's helping the Mets out tremendously. You know, I'm happy because I'm a Mets fan. The Mets have been injured a lot this year, but my disappointing team, I think it has to go Atlanta. I mean, you look at this Braves team, and yeah, losing Marcell Ozuna to, you know, fractured hand or wrist, and then whatever he's going through now. So Bauer, same difference. But losing Osuna, and then all on top of Soroka's now down for the entire year, tore his Achilles, and you know, just lackluster pitching altogether. I think the Braves really messed up getting Drew Smyly and not re-signing Mark Melancon. Mark Melancon got paid $3 million in San Diego, and the Atlanta Braves signed Drew Smyly, of all people, to a 1-year, $8 million deal. They could have saved $5 million and probably be in first place right now. The Braves, I was looking at these stats, have more games lost in the seventh inning or later this year than they have in like the last 2 years combined. They were like something to note. They did not lose after having the lead in the seventh inning or later last year. They've lost so many more games than I think the last 2 years. I think they're at like 18 already. So it's a crazy high number, 81 games. So overall, that's my disappointing surprise. Second half of the year, I think the Phillies, you're going to see you drop down to fourth place. I think Washington stays about 500. You know, who knows what they're going to do at trade deadline. I think if they decide to move some pieces, they might drop down. Losing Kyle Schwarber, that's going to hurt a lot. And the Mets, I think that they're going to keep the first place division. You got to look at this roster, man. You have Carrasco coming back or after the trade deadline, Syndergaard at the end, like September. So, I mean, the Mets are just getting healthier and healthier. They built this lead, and I think they'll sustain it to the second half.
And I think you make a really interesting point about Philadelphia. I mean, they are only 4.5 games out of the division. So you're talking about a team. I mean, and Atlanta, they're right there also. even though they're so your surprising team and your disappointing team are still right there. And I'm not saying that the Mets aren't going to hold on to the division, even though I have my doubts, especially with DeGrom's health. We'll see. But man, that division is tight. The only problem with that division is it does not look likely. I mean, it's possible, but not likely that a wild card team will come out of that division because of the next division that I'm about to talk about. So I'm going to talk about the NL West, of course, because that's my division. That's the division I grew up in when this little guy was just a baby. And the surprising team of this division, let's say it all together, everyone. The San Francisco
Giants.
Oh my God. What a first half. I mean, it is just the surprise of all surprises. They have literally come out of nowhere. Yeah, they had kind of a good season last year in 60 games, 29 and 31. Of course, they kind of pissed it all away at the end, but it didn't really matter. They were going to play the Dodgers in a 3-game series. They were going to get killed anyway. It didn't matter. But this year, I mean, they come out of the gates, and you kind of can tell, especially the first week of the season, and this team looks a little different. I mean, they blow a couple leads. Their bullpen's a little shaky. But once Jake McGee got going, once they got Tyler Rogers, once they got their bullpen set up, this team can hit. Oh my God, can they hit? And boy, do they have depth. They've got not only guys that you thought were going to be good this year, like Yastrzemski, and Belt, but look at Crawford, what he's done. I mean, just unbelievable numbers, 17 homers, 50 plus RBIs, and then, you've got guys like Wilmer Flores, Darren Ruff, Evan Longoria got off to a great start, but then got hurt, but it didn't even matter. They've got so much depth. They bring in guys, they make big plays, they're clutch, and then, of course, the starting pitching. You've got to look at their starting pitching. And who is the most surprising guy on that starting rotation? It's not Gausman, it's DeSclafani. That guy, oh my God, Mr. Complete Game. He is an anomaly in today's game. And he is, literally carrying that pitching staff as Gausman is actually starting to wear down a little bit as we get towards the All-Star break. Again, they have been great, but I hate to say it, they're not going to win the division. And I still listen, I love my team. I think they're great. But the Dodgers, they are one game out, and they have not even been healthy. They really haven't had their full roster. Bellinger was out for a lot of the time. Even a guy like Gavin Lux has been in and out of the lineup. Betts has not been himself. Now they've got Bauer going through, obviously, this scandal, which we could talk about for, hours. But I don't know how that's going to turn out. But they are healthier now. And Walker Buehler is still better than Kevin Gausman, okay? He is. He's probably one of the best starting pitchers in the league. He might even rival Mr. DeGrom. I know DeGrom has been amazing this year, but Walker Buehler, hey, you want an amazing pitcher in a game 7? I'm taking Walker Buehler. That guy is amazing. Okay. That guy, he's got the cojones, he's got the stuff. He seems like the guy. Okay. So I think the Dodgers are still going to get the division. I also think the Padres, who have shown in spurts that they can be really great, they're still there. They're still hanging around. They're getting healthier. Okay. So it's going to be a tough ride. I think the Giants have a great chance at a wild card spot because they've given themselves a cushion. And if you look at the rest of the divisions, they have a great chance. Okay. But it's going to be tough. Obviously, the most disappointing team is the Arizona Diamondbacks. Any team that loses a major league record, I think it was it 21 road losses?
24, I think.
24, okay. It's so disappointing. And the first thing I look at when I look at that team is I look at they signed Madison Bumgarner to a 5-year, $90 million contract, and he's pitched maybe 2 good games for them in 2 years. And it makes me appreciate Farhan Zaidi and what he's done with the Giants. Oh my God. Some of the best moves that you could imagine, bringing guys off the scrap heap to just, contribute right away. But the Diamondbacks are just in a tough spot right now. And they've got veteran players on their team like Eduardo Escobar, and they've got Cabrera, who these guys, they're kind of in the later years of their career. They're not really, quality players anymore. They're veterans. and they're actually giving these guys playing time. Josh Reddick's another one. Well, they're going to obviously be trading these guys. Hopefully they can get back some prospects to get back, but it's going to take a while for that team, a long time for them to get back into the fold. Colorado is always Colorado. So there's my prediction. I do think the Dodgers will take the division still. Unfortunately, I think the Padres also may catch the Giants because the Padres and Giants play 9 times in September. And you know how it gets in September. The cream usually rises to the top. It's going to be tough for the Giants. They have a lot of injuries. But I do believe you're going to have both wildcard teams coming out of the West and the Dodgers winning the division. That's my prediction for the NL West. All right, so now it's time to talk about the NL Central. And this has been, God, what a wild division, kind of back and forth as the year's gone on here. But man, the surprising teams, again, it's got to be the Milwaukee Brewers. It has to be. I mean, what a streak this team has been on. You know, Christian Yelich and their pitching staff, they have just been tremendous. And what a time for a streak as you're going into the All-Star break. You know, just great timing. The Cubs also losing 9 in a row at the same time. Just really an amazing, amazing performance by the Milwaukee Brewers, who are now 7 games up in the division. The highest margin when you look all across the big leagues. I mean, except the Chicago White Sox, this is the team that has the largest division lead in baseball. And it's just really amazing to see what they've been able to do. It just shows you never know what's going to happen in these divisions, because we say before the season, we don't think Milwaukee, you know, we got the Reds, we got the Cubs, we got the Cardinals. Obviously, the Pirates are the Pirates. But yes, the Milwaukee Brewers are the surprise. It looks like they may coast to the division this year, which is really surprising. But to me, you know, the disappointing team, and I may even go slightly to the Cardinals here, because they've got to dig themselves out of a hole. But I will go the Cubs. You know, these teams are both 9.5 games out of the division, and it's going to be really difficult for the Chicago Cubs to compete for a wild card spot. It's probably not going to happen because of the Giants, Padres, and Dodgers. Same thing goes for the NL East. It's going to be tough for these teams to compete for a wild card spot because the NL West teams have given themselves such a cushion. But I've got to go with the Cubs. They don't seem to be progressing, and they really haven't been progressing since they won the World Series in 2016. You know, they had a couple good seasons. Yeah, they made the NLCS. They lost to the Dodgers. But since then, it's been a slow decline. You know, you look at Chris Bryant, you look at Anthony Rizzo, you look at Javi Baez. I mean, Javi Baez may have had the best play of the first half. Like, honestly, when that play against the Pirates where he hit the little dribbler, backed up, made the guy make the throw. But it really may have been the stupidest play by the Pirates also in the history of baseball. Anyways, just an amazing play, but unfortunately they have not been able to string anything together. They lose to teams that are under 500. They're pitching, you know, Kyle Hendricks is just not the same pitcher that he once was. He's hittable now. And I don't know if they not only the starting staff, their bullpen's pretty good, but I just don't see them being able to get back into this. So they're probably going to be making some trades, probably going to have to, you know, get rid of some players. The Cardinals are also a slight disappointment, but not really when you think about where they are and kind of where they've been. They've also been on a slow decline. Nolan Arenado, not the great first half that they probably expected, although hit the hell out of the ball against the Giants this past week. So, you know, you just never know with him. But definitely the Chicago Cubs, they are the disappointment of the National League Central. So my opinion on this division, Milwaukee, they're going to run away with it. They're probably going to win the division by at least 5 games. The other teams are going to be fighting for second. They're going to be looking, maybe if they can get on a run, they can get close to a wild card spot, but it's not likely.
Yeah, and may I add this before we cut away from this division? If we did the preseason predictions, I was a believer in the Milwaukee Brewers. I was a believer in the Reds last year. They made the playoffs. I was a believer in the Brewers. You saw what Corbin Burns did and Woodruff did last year. I knew their pitcher was going to step up. You have Devin Williams, Josh Hader in the back of the bullpen. Freddie Peralta, again, another big step up. So I would have been a believer. And I would say the Cubs, I think they're right where they're supposed to be. And I don't think the Cubs are going anywhere. Drew, I don't know why you've been a believer in the Cubs the last couple of years. You know, you saw what the Marlins of all people did to them last year. They're just not really a team built like they used to be. And my disappointing team goes to the Cardinals.
And to add to that also, I mean, the Reds in a way are somewhat of a disappointment. You know, they had a pretty decent start, and then they went into a bad streak, and now they're starting to come out of it a little bit. But the Reds, they're kind of a team that you expect, okay, it's time for you guys to start winning. You know, I mean, yeah, they made the playoffs last year, as you know, and we feel like they could get back, but that's a team that I expect to have a better second half. So if there is a team that I think could catch the Brewers, it's the Reds.
Yeah, and I think that a big thing factor into their slow start. Luis Castillo had like an 8 ERA through his like first 8 starts. He's been pitching great, and I think the absence of Sonny Gray and other pitchers, TJ Antone, and their starting rotation would really hurt them.
All right. Well, we're not going to go into our absolute predictions for playoffs or anything like that yet. We'll get to that later in the year. But it's time to move over to the American League and the AL West. Take it away, Nicholas.
All right. So thinking about the AL West here, and, you know, my look of it is I'm not going to give any of the top 2 teams, you know, a surprise. My surprise team of all teams, the Seattle Mariners. What they've been able to do and put together, you know, you saw Logan Gilbert throw a 1-hitter against the Yankees yesterday. You know, you have UC Kikuchi has been absolutely fantastic the last couple of weeks. Their lineup has been producing. Look at this team. They're 4 games over 500, 8 out of the division. You know, there's practically no chance that, you know, the Mariners catch anyone in like the A's or the Astros. But you just look at this team, it's like they're performing above expectations. You know, the Astros, they're doing the Astro things. The A's, we'll talk about them, you know, in a minute here. But the Mariners, nobody expected them to be a third-place team, and there they are. I think what they're doing has been so amazing. We saw Kelenic get called up for a little bit, struggled massively. But, you know, this team has a lot of fight to them, and I think that with the right moves, I think they have a decision with Kikuchi to make. Ultimately, I think they're going to hold on to Kikuchi, and I think that, you know, they might try to trade a veteran Kyle Seager or Kendall Graveman, their expiring contracts. But this Mariners team with, you know, Julio Rodriguez, Kelenic, Kyle Lewis coming back healthy, Evan White coming back healthy, you know, they have such a young core of players. Their starting rotation has been built up. I think they're in such a great position for a couple years down the line to catch the Astros, catch the A's, maybe even be next year, depending on what the Astros do. And the year after that, I definitely think it's their time. The Astros are losing players. Correa's a free agent this year. Altuve's coming up. Verlander's coming up. So I definitely think it's something to be talking about. My disappointing team is definitely going to be, I think, you know, it's hard because I want to say the Angels, but you got to look at them and be like, they lost Trout. Rendon's been injured. Rendon hasn't been hitting anything. They just had bad performances. You also look at the A's and be like, yeah, I feel like the A's could have stepped up just a little bit. They had that insane winning streak, I think 15 games earlier on in the season. But, you know, they're a slight disappointment too. You think they'd, you know, be in first place, but the Astros have been playing so greatly. So I think it's pretty close. I don't really see a clear disappointment. The Rangers, they're going to be the Rangers, but I think the A's and the Angels, I think they're performing a little worse than we expected, but I can't really give a clear disappointment in this. And I think the Astros overall, I think they're pitching, coming back healthy. They didn't have Framber. You know, Odorizzi wasn't there to start the season. So I think with those pitchers coming back healthy, I think the Astros are going to continue this. And I think the A's are going to be looking for a wild card spot in this division.
And I agree. I think the A's are a disappointment, though. I really do. I think they felt within themselves that they would probably win this division, and for them to get off to such a bad start. Now I know that didn't mean obviously they bounced back, but I believe they lost their first set. Was it first 6 or 7 games? Seven to start the season 0-7. I mean, that's just a hole, you know, and that affects you later in the year when you're going to have your winning streaks, you're going to have your losing streaks, and it's a simple math game. And I think that was very disappointing. The other thing about the A's that you have to understand, I've been to some A's games this year. I give you the local perspective. Nobody goes to these games, COVID or not. They actually opened up the stadium full capacity, and there were 4,000 people there. They had more people when there were COVID restrictions than they had when they took the restrictions off. So this is a team that, you know, they're in flux right now. Nobody knows where they're going. They may move to Vegas. the Major League Baseball is really, I always give you the kind of the macro level behind the scenes. They are probably going to be on the move because this team, the city cannot support this team, and they play in an absolute dump of a stadium. So it's not looking good for them. And I think it's starting to rub off on the players and the coaching staff. I really do. So it's a disappointment for them. So we'll see how it goes. All right. The next division we're going to look at is the AL East. And Nicholas, when we look at the AL East, I mean, this is a division that to me is a huge surprise. I mean, I honestly, I mean, if I go back to the beginning, the Rays are there. Of course, the Rays are there. The Rays are they're a great team. But nobody, I don't think any of us would have expected that the Boston Red Sox would be in the position that they're in. And really the way you got to look at it is Alex Cora. I hate to put it all on a manager and say, it's all him. But beyond the cheating scandals or whatever may have happened, which to me is still to be determined when it comes to the Red Sox, not necessarily looking at the Astros, what was happening when he was an assistant there. But he has brought back that culture, that winning culture. And sometimes that matters, how players are treated in the locker room. And look at a guy like JD Martinez, he probably just didn't connect with Ron Roenicke. It just didn't work for him, Maybe there was a disconnect. Maybe it was the language barrier. Maybe, who knows what it was. I mean, there are a lot of things that happen behind the scenes that we don't know. This team, what I'm more surprised about is their pitching, and how they've been able to handle the New York Yankees. They've had, great success against them in Boston, in New York, and the Yankees leading to my next. So, that was the Red Sox are the surprise team. Ooh, the disappointing team is the New York Yankees. Oh my God, what a mess! And Aroldis Chapman, God, you suck, bro. Man, you suck. Seriously, giving up a grand slam the other night to tie the game up 4 runs. And if you're Aaron Boone, I mean, when do you stop bringing this guy in? He the guy just doesn't have it anymore. He's mentally gone. He doesn't have, he may have the fastball. I don't know if it's what it is. This guy.
Sticky stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say it, but, I'm trying to give these guys some of the benefit of the doubt. But yeah, I mean, the sticky stuff probably, not having that, it's affected Garrett Cole. It's affected Aroldis Chapman. And then you've still got the same issues that you've had with their offense. A guy like Giancarlo Stanton, very inconsistent, paying all that money. Yeah, you've had some bright spots from guys like Gio Urshela, and Aaron Judge. But for the most part, this team, DJ LeMahieu, he's still there. He's still kind of putting it together. But they are a disappointing team. They don't have a lot of team chemistry right now. They can't seem to be able to put together any kind of streak. They've been, kind of back and forth. And Aaron Boone's feeling the heat, man. And I don't know if he's going to make it through the season. I do think that they may be buyers. That's one of my predictions for this division is even though they're only 2 games over 500 right now and, behind 7.5 games in the division, I do think that they are going to be buyers. And I think there are some guys out there that they might be interested in. You never know. They may be interested in some of the Cubs players, and we just don't know what's going to happen. So it's very important to think about the Yankees not being completely done when we talk about buyers or sellers. But my prediction is that the Rays will get this division. I do believe that they're going to get it. I think they're going to get back on track. I know they've had issues. I know Glasnow's had issues. They're not the same team. When you look at Arozarena, he really hasn't been the same player. But that team still has something. They have that winning culture, and there's a long way to go in this season. And I know they have a lot of games still head-to-head against the Red Sox. Another team that I'd like to mention, just because I know I mentioned them earlier in the season, is the Toronto Blue Jays. This is a team that is on the rise. So I want to make sure that I give myself some props for that, okay? Because the Toronto Blue Jays are, they're 44-40 right now. They are in it. They're not necessarily going to get a playoff spot. It's not for sure, but I know they're going back to Toronto. I believe, have they already gone back to Toronto, or are they on their way back
Not
to
yet.
Toronto? And I think this is a team that obviously with the young guns that they have in Bichette, in Guerrero, in Biggio, they've got to get better. Their pitching staff has got to get better. But man, can they hit the ball? And God, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Oh, am I excited to see him this week as I head to Denver. It's going to be amazing to watch him hit the ball. So I want to give them a shout out as a team that is on the rise. But I do think that the Tampa Bay Rays are going to win this division. I think the Red Sox will snag one of the wild card spots. That's my prediction. And it is now time for the AL Central. Take it away, Nikki.
All righty. So the surprise team, surprise, I think it's a surprise for where they're at right now, 51-35, the White Sox. I if you asked me, last year I even predicted the White Sox winning. I could have told you they're winning the division. But to have Eloy out, to have, Lance Lynn out to start the year, to have Madrigal out, they've lost so many key players, to this lineup. Eloy's be getting a rehab assignment, so he might be back before the trade deadline. But you look at this team, it's like they have fought so much. You had Yerman Mercedes, after the Tony La Russa thing. Tony La Russa probably just so screwed up Yerman. He's now in AAA. They optioned him back down. But, you look at this team. They have fight. They lose some players. It has not affected them. And, that's why I'm giving them the surprise. These injuries have not affected them. In a way, they affected the Mets, if we go back to them. But this team here, they've just persevered through it. They keep on fighting. You can say Cleveland what you want about them, surprise, not surprise, or even Detroit. I think they're both performing maybe a little bit above expectation, especially Detroit. But, I think definitely Chicago, with all the injuries, I think they win this. Surprising. Disappointing team. Holy cow. What happened to the Twins? They were running away. Sorry. They were running away with, the division last year. And, if you watch this team closely, I think they blew 2 leads to the Astros in their only 2 playoff games last year. And I think if you look at the team, you could see that they were just kind of losing, ahead of steam. And this year, I think if we go back and you watch it, I think you can clearly tell that this team ran out of gas. They let super subtle moves, letting CJ Cron, letting Schoop go. They brought in Donaldson, but like I said, last year when I predicted the White Sox, will he be amazing? They pay him a lot of money, but I don't think that contract is going to be worth it. I think he's getting older. He's not as solid. He's still a good player, but I think he's nowhere where he was with Atlanta. He's not bringing the production. I think the Twins, they're probably going to look to sell pieces, sell like Nelson Cruz, sell these expiring contracts. Jose Barrios has been rumored to be, in trade talks, potentially with the Mets. I'm a Mets fan, of course. So I'll bring the Mets every little corner I possibly can. But the Twins, they're definitely the disappointing team. So, wow, they've been bad. You could even shout out the Royals too. But they got Benintendi. They traded Khalil Lee to the Mets. But they're the last place team right now. So
don't forget about the Tigers, bro. They've had a pretty not a bad season, considering where they were. They're only 8 games under 500. They're not going to make the playoffs, but they're another team that's on the rise. They've got a lot of young players and they've got some guys with potential. So let's not forget the Tigers.
Yep. Like I said, I could have easily given the Tigers the most surprising team. But, I think if you look at this Tigers team, we saw it with the Red Sox. Cora goes back to the Red Sox. Look who the Tigers have as manager, AJ Hinch. I think he does something, brings a winning culture. And their team, they have Miguel Cabrera. He's not very where he used to be. They don't have the key pieces. Their strength is the young pitching, and I think AJ Hinch is managing that so incredibly well. I think the Tigers in a couple years, they're going to be in a good spot when all that pitching and Spencer Torkelson comes around and these young prospects.
Well, it's been great talking about, this amazing first half. Nick, any last parting shots on your way out? Anything to look forward to? What are you looking at in the second half of the season?
So the second half of the year, first we got to approach the All-Star week. this next coming week. Sunday, I am so excited for it. Sunday, the MLB draft. It's finally time again. They moved it back from June to the All-Star break now. So, you have 8 players at the top of the draft board. They could go anywhere. Jack Leiter could get drafted number 1 at the Pirates, or he might fall all the way to 7 to 8. I think Leiter goes to the Red Sox at 3. I mean, look at the Red Sox, by the way. Did terrible last year. They're winning the division right now. They have the number 3 overall pick. Getting Jack Leiter, he's going to be so good. But then you also have guys like Kumar Rocker falling to maybe the Mets. But I think the draft is something super interested. Home Run Derby, I think that's going to be amazing. Best Home Run Derby yet. The All-Star game, the Futures game. I think that there's going to be so much content this next week to watch in the MLB. Best time of the year, All-Star break, by far in MLB. And then, playoff stretches, trade deadline after that, crazy trade deadline. Buyers, sellers. I'm looking at the league right now. There's a lot of teams in contention. So I do think there will be, it's opened up a little more than it was a week, 2 weeks ago when I was watching a little closer. But you look at this, lots of teams are going to try to buy and not many players. So there are definitely going to be some bidding wars. I think that this trade deadline, there's going to be getting more. Teams are going to get more for their players than they have in the past. By the way, Carlos Correa just got put on the injured list. Breaking news right now. So that's going to hinder the Astros. But down the stretch, September, look for some very good division races. As you said, cream of the top or rising to the top. Mets are winning the division.
Oh, my God. And don't forget, this tall, goofy guy. Look at me. This tall, goofy guy is going to be wearing a bright orange shirt and will be at the Futures game, the Home Run Derby, and the All-Star game.
Vlogging it all for YouTube.
Vlogging it all for YouTube, putting it on the page for you guys, okay? It's going to be all there for you. You might hear me swearing a little bit, you'll see my beer falling all over the place, okay? Nicholas knows what I'm talking about. You've seen me.
Just don't drop your daughter getting a baseball.
I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to pull a Josh Hamilton, okay, or whatever happened with that. But yeah, I will be there, and I'm excited. Thank you all for joining us today. It has been a pleasure to be back. Remember, click below, whatever you got to do with your hands, and join us next time. I know Nicholas is going to be, adding a bunch of videos. He may even give you some draft coverage this week. We'll see if he can do anything like that. Thank you for joining us. Have a great day, and see you guys next time on the 3-2 pitch.